And I go, oh fuck, this is the wrong meeting. I don't know how I got here. Maybe it was a bus. I'm going to tell you guys a Halloween story that my grandmother used to tell us when we was little kids. And I'm taking my glasses off because now I can't see her and it's much less intimidating. My grandmother was from Flippin, Georgia, which is a little town which no longer exists. And I kind of slide into her accent when I tell this story, which may be the most frightening thing. But Flippin no longer exists. It was in the outskirts of Marietta, Georgia. I don't know if you all are familiar with that city yet. Well, her older sister, our Aunt Nan, her name was Nettie Bell. She was about 15 years old. She was about to be an old maid. And this gentleman from Louisiana came, this French gentleman, was named Hana, but nobody in Marietta, nobody in Flippin, excuse me, could pronounce Hana. So she said, just call me Mr. Fox, because that's what Hana means. And so they began a courting. He had a car. Nobody in Flippin had ever seen a car before. It was big business. And so he came every Saturday, and her brothers was always in the room, and this went on for some length of time, and finally, it started to get real serious, and one day Mr. Fox said, "Hey, Nettie Bell, you have never been to my house? Why you do come to my house? I come to your house all the time." And Nettie Bell said, "Oh, Mr. Fox, that would not be proper." He said, "Oh." And then Nettie Bell said, "Well, where is your house, Mr. Fox? Where is that?" He said, "Well, Nettie Bell, it's in the Westwood, right outside of town." She said, "Oh, no, Mr. Fox, nobody will go to that house. Nobody will go anywhere near that wood because we say it's haunted." Well, Miss Nettie Bell, one day she had finished milking the cows and doing her chores at the farm. And she went out into the woods and she was going to pick up some flowers to make a wreath for Mr. Fox's beautiful house, which she had not seen, but she thought that would be a nice gesture. Well, the way young girls would do, she managed to get herself lost in the wood, apron full of flowers, and she was like, "Oh dear, how did I get out here?" And she comes to a clearing, and there's this big old house. And she dropped all the flowers, and she said, "Oh, this must be Mr. Fox's house." So she went up to the house, and she was about to knock on the door for she needed a ride home because it was starting to get late. And as she was about to knock on the door, she looked above the door, and on the lintel there was a carving, and it said, "Be bold, be bold." And she said, "Well, that's very strange. I wonder what does that mean? It's very inspiring, though, so I'm going to be a little bit bold." And she knocked, and she knocked, and she knocked, and nobody answered. And she said, "Oh, Mr. Fox, I hope you can understand. I really need to come inside and sit down." And she pushed the door open, and it was open. And there was the biggest, most grandiose staircase you'd ever seen in her life. The kind of thing that make you want to put on a ball gown and pretend you're Scarlett O'Hara. So she had her little fantasy up the stairs. Oh, yes, I'm feeling it. She gets to the top of the stairs, and the gallery is right there, all these doorways. And she sees this first door, and she said, "Oh, I'll bet you this is Mr. Fox's bedroom." So she went to go to the door, and she went to open that door, and above that door was a little lintel with a little carving. It said, be bold, but not too bold." She said, "That's very odd." But she said, "I'm going to be bold." And she opened the door, and it was beautiful. Hung with the most beautiful velvet and silks. Beautiful, beautiful bedroom. She'd never seen such a thing, such opulence. She said, she noticed there's a door right at the end of the room. She said, "That must be his closet. He has the most beautiful clothes. He's always dressed so fine. I would love to get a look up close at his clothes." So she went up to that door, and there was another carving above the lintel, and it said, be bold, but not too bold, lest that your heart's blood should run cold." And she said, "Well, this is very strange. This is very strange." But our Nettie Bell, she was an adventurous gal. So she decided to go ahead and be that bold. She opened that door up. It was very dark. She couldn't see anything. Kind of like me right now. She walked in, her eyes kind of started to adjust, and she saw 3 tubs, larger than bathtubs, more like vats. She said, "What is this?" And as she got closer, she realized the first tub was full of hair, skin. The next tub was full of bones. The tub after that was full of a very dark liquid, which she could only guess would be human blood. And then Nettie Bell put her hand over her mouth. She just couldn't imagine screaming. She couldn't. She had to be in control. She hightailed it out of that room and closed that door. She carefully checked Mr. Fox's bedroom to be sure she hadn't disturbed anything, not even that little picture on the washstand, nothing. She walked out that door, and the sun is just kind of beaming right through the big picture window, and it's very bright, and she's kind of blinded and kind of dazzled, and she hears the sound of his car. And she's like, oh shit, what am I gonna do now? So she went down that curved stair, and she hid behind the stairway, kind of underneath it, sort of in this little alcove right there. And all she could do was just pray to the good Lord that he would not see her. And she could hear this sound along with the sound of the engine. And when this engine stopped and the sound kept going, she realized it was the sound of a woman screaming. And Mr. Fox was pulling this girl out of the car by her hair, and he dragged her up those stairs, up the steps, pushed through the door, brought her up to the top of the stairs. Miss Girl grabbed the banister and wouldn't let go, and she wouldn't let go, and she wouldn't let go. And Mr. Fox just happened to have a suit of armor at the top of that stairs. He grabbed the sword from that suit of armor, and he chopped her hand right off, and it landed right in Nettie Bell's lap. Right in that same apron that just not 15 minutes ago had held the most beautiful bluebells, and she was going to make a wreath for this monster, this Bluebeard himself. The girl at the top of the stairs fainted dead away. He dragged her into the room, and there was no more sound. Well, Nettie Bell, she got up out of there as fast as she could. Aunt Ned said, I got to go. And that was Friday evening. Saturday morning rolled around, and here comes Mr. Fox for his usual visit. And in fact, this was the day he was supposed to propose to her. Well, he gets to the house and he says, "Mais Nettie Bell, you are very quiet. You are very pale. You are not yourself." She said, "Well, Mr. Fox, I had the strangest dream." He said, "Well, Nettie Bell, I have told many dreams. I have been all over Europe. I can tell you about your dream. Will you tell me your dream, please?" She said, "Oh, Mr. Fox, you just won't believe it. I dreamed I was lost in the woods, and I came across this very large house. And I walked up to the door, and it had a carving on the lintel above it that said, 'Be bold, be bold.' And so I decided to be bold, and I pushed my way into the house, and I walked up these beautiful stairs, and I pretended I was Scarlett O'Hara. And I got to that door at the top, and above that door was carved on the lintel, 'Be bold, but not too bold.' And I walked in there, and it was the most beautiful bedroom I've ever seen in my life. Opulent, Mr. Fox. And Mr. Fox at this point is looking a little bit, shall we say, spooked. Mr. Fox said, 'Oh, but Miss Nettie Bell, it was not so. But that is the way it was in my dream, Mr. Fox.' So Nettie Bell recounted how she went to that next door, and she saw that carving above that lintel that said, 'Be bold, but not too bold, lest that your heart's blood should run cold.' And at this point, Mr. Fox said, 'Oh, but Nettie Bell, it was not so, and it is not so. But that is the way it was in my dream, Mr. Fox.' So she told how she went in there and she saw those horrors, as she described them. And she told how she ran out of that room and hid under that stairway. And because she saw Mr. Fox coming out of there with that girl dragging her by the hair, and the girl is screaming, and the car's been turned off, and the girl is screaming. And she said, Mr. Fox, you hit that girl right at the top of the stairs, and she was hanging onto the banister, and you took the sword from that suit of armor at the top of those stairs, and you just cut that girl's hand right off, and it landed in my lap. And at this point, Mr. Fox has jumped up, and he's turned totally white. He said, 'Mais Nettie Bell, it was not so, and it is not so, and God forbid it should ever be so.' And our Nettie Bell, she stood up at this point. She took that bloody hand and she threw it right on the table, and she said, 'But it was so, Mr. Fox, and it is so, Mr. Fox, and here's the hand so that you will know, Mr. Fox.' And her brother snatched Mr. Fox up, and they took him to that cornfield behind the house, and they killed him. And I won't tell you how, lest that your heart's blood should run cold." Ooh.